this something ratchet one time?
Look, I don't wanna talk. How you try and press the kid and read it, you was soft. All you know is capping, homie, you don't know the law. Pedal to the metal, you ain't catching me in park. I just hit the start. I don't.
Well, hello out there, folks. How we doing today? Welcome to the MCU'S Bleeding Edge. We are live Friday night to discuss the third Back to the Future film. Now, if you're not familiar with the third Back to the Future film, this, of course, as a lot of people have beautifully quoted calling it the Wild Wild West one. So if you have seen the Western one, you have seen the third Back to the Future, people. So definitely that's the one we're watching here. As you can see behind me here, Back to the Future 3. Of course, you got all the Western gear, so that's what we'll be talking about. So this bad boy came out May 25th, 1990. As we mentioned in the previous Back to the Future review, this was simultaneously filmed with the second film in 1989. They briefly did film some stuff in January of 1990, so not all the footage in this film is from 89. A little bit of it is from 1990. But Back to the Future 3, a lot of people, it's a hit or miss, I feel, with a lot of people here. Some people absolutely love it. They like it better than 2. I've had people say they absolutely hate it and think 2's the best or better than the first film as well. I've had some people say that they should have never made this film and all that kind of stuff. And, you know, Back to the Future 3, I think, is just a fantastic way that they ended the trilogy, giving us kind of that kind of closure, but at the same time, you're kind of like, oh, they could go off and do more stuff with this if they wanted to. So I think that was a smart idea. So, of course, this bad boy, is the third film, like I said. This one clocks in about almost 2 hours. I think it's actually considered the longest of the 3 films. And it is, I think a fun film. I think that it was, like I said, a great ending to the trilogy, and I really enjoyed this film. So it's going to be fun to talk about it tonight. So, guys, when was the first time you watched this, and what were your thoughts after watching it for the first time? Also, before we get into that question, we're just letting people know out there in the great lands of lands that we'll be doing the drinking game tonight, of course. And, of course, the drinking words tonight will be anything Biff or Tanner or anything related to any of Biff's family members. So that includes Mad Dog, anything like that. Anything Clara Clayton, Clara or Clayton, Clayton Ravine, that is all included. And also, locomotive or train will be the drinking word tonight. All right. Why am I hearing myself echo?
I don't know. I don't hear an echo. Do you hear an echo, Andres?
Try muting yourself.
Hold on.
Hello, hello. Okay, yeah, all right. Yeah, I don't know.
Not me?
I don't know. Yeah, it was just a weird little echo. I don't know where it was from, but
well,
it was funny.
I understand how that can throw you off, sir. I've been there.
So thank you for trying that out, sir. Thank you. Anyways, so getting into this film, so this film actually was made for the exact same amount as the second film, $40 million, and it actually ended up bringing in $245.1 million in 1990. So it actually, it wasn't as successful as the second film, but it still was enough to be garnered a not flop for its, being a third film in a trilogy. But I think the funny thing about it was that the fact that it made, I would say it's almost 100 million, just a little like 80 something million less than the second film. Shows that I don't think a lot of people enjoyed the Western theme as much as the 2015 theme in 1989. So I think that fact that it went back to the old West. I don't think a lot of people in the late 80s, early 90s were big into the Westerns at that time. Westerns kind of, were on the back burner at that time. And by, I think, the late 90s, Westerns were kind of becoming big again. So I think that was one of the things about it, unfortunately, at that time, that it wasn't a big Western time. So I think that's probably one of the reasons why this didn't do so.
Unforgiven brought it back, the genre.
Yeah, and that was 94. So mid 90s. So yeah, I definitely think that Westerns were kind of in a downslope at the time. So I think that's another reason why this didn't do so well. Because actually, a cool tidbit for you guys was that they actually had thought of this idea prior to making the 2 sequels. They actually had even thought about doing it in the first film. So this was actually already an idea they had. And then they decided, well, after they made the second film, they're like, well, we didn't make the second film into a Western. Let's do the third one as a Western. So I think that's kind of a cool little tidbit. So getting back to your guys' questions, what was the first time you saw the film? And what were your overall thoughts that first time you watched it compared to your rewatch? Starting with you, Andres.
So it's tough to remember when I seen part 3, but it has to be either a marathon with the trilogy as a packet. If you've seen it in AMC or any like cable channels that do like a marathon for these films or franchise, like Lord of the Rings and all that. And just the overall thoughts for me, I really enjoyed this movie. I agree with you, Cyber. Like, yeah, the Western was kind of like a, how you say it, like a kind of like a downturn for me because I'm not a big fan of Westerns in general. And taking that aside, I think this is actually one of the really strong in the trilogy in terms of character development. Like, I really like this movie more because of more Doc Brown. Like, I'm really happy that they did more things with Doc Brown, like giving him a love interest. Just like, like part 2, I like how it's the inverse of that, where now Marty had to rescue, Brown. How, in part 2, Doc had to help Marty to kind of fix, Marty's family's future in the, the future and all that. So I really appreciate that, like, inverse of the storytelling that, now Marty needed to, get back to Doc and go back to 1985. So I appreciate more of that character driven, and it's more like not crazy as part 2. That's something that was a big plus for many people, why they like part 3 more, is because part 2 is very energetic. Like, we jump to so many different timelines, from the future, alternate timeline, and then back to 1955. So I really appreciate that one setting location for this film. So overall, I really enjoyed this. It's my second favorite after part 2. I still like part 2 more. But yeah, this is my second favorite in terms of this franchise.
Thank you. And I mean, technically, it does pop from 1955 to 1885 and then 1985. So it still does go to 3 different places, but I get what you're saying, sir. Thank you. Jeff, same question, sir. What was the first time you watched it? What were your thoughts off the initial first watch and compared to your rewatch that you recently watched it?
I don't remember ever watching this when I was a kid or anything like that. This was my first time, I think, watching it just yesterday. So that I can remember. I don't remember. I have no remembrance of watching that movie at all at any point in my life. None of the ending or the middle or any part at all. So that was my first time. I have nothing to compare it to in terms of like rewatch mode or whatever. As far as taking it in for the first time, it was entertaining. I'm not a big Back to the Future guy to begin with, but it was an entertaining film. And I also enjoyed the inclusion of more Doc Brown in the story, and the injection of the Miss C character, what's the Steenberg chick, Mary Steenberg. She was good, a good addition to the cast.
Excellent. Thank you. All right. Excellent. As we can see here, Andres will be back. So He will be back shortly, people, just to let you know. Anyways, so this film, like I said, starts right off where the last film started or ended. Sorry, and basically, as we left the second film at the very end, after Marty sees the DeLorean struck by lightning and disappear, he gets a letter. And the letter says that Doc is fine, that he's alive and well, and that he's been transported back to 1885, and that he's happily been living there for blah 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 months, and that that he's all good. And so when Marty realizes that he needs the other Doc's help, to help him get back, that he goes running for him. And so we see him run up right after the 1985 or first Back to the Future movie ends, where Marty gets sent back to 1985. We see that 1955 Doc Brown, joyous, seeing that the lightning worked and set the components in to fix it. And all of a sudden, Marty comes running around the corner up to him. So he's like, Doc, I need your help. And he's like, Marty, I just sent you back to the future. He's like, I know, I'm back for the future. And he faints. And that's how the second one ends. That's how this first film begins. Same thing. Hello, Rathacon. Welcome to the show, sir. All right, so after Doc faints, Marty takes him back to his house in 1955. He awakens to Howdy Doody. And he's like, howdy doody time. And he's kind of like recounting what happened last night and kind of like what happened. He's like, I recall seconds after the other Marty going home, another Marty appearing and all this kind of stuff. And then all of a sudden Marty's like, hey, Doc, do you know how we can do? He's like, you cannot be here. And basically Marty has to reassure him that, yes, it is him, and that, he's back. And we get kind of that same kind of thing we had in the first film when Marty first goes to see Doc after being transported back to 1955, and he like says, "Oh, who's your president in 1985? Ronald Reagan, the actor." It's kind of the same kind of situation until he tells him about the flux capacitor. And so in this, the same thing kind of happens, it's like, how do you know that I am back in 1885, future boy? And he goes, you sent me a letter. And he's like, and so then he reads the letter saying, basically explaining how he's living happy, where he's like, here, I have left the components, the schematic for 1955 Doc Brown to fix the DeLorean so he can get back to 1985. He's like, I'm happy here in 1885. Don't come back. That is my wishes, blah, blah, blah. And, basically, at first Marty's kind of like, okay, I'm going to, do that. Me and this Doc are going to go find the DeLorean and fix it. And so as they go search for it, they have to blast open this old cave. They go into the cave. We see the DeLorean. It's all covered up on stilts and everything like that. And, they basically show them kind of repairing it and everything. And as they're finishing up and stuff like that, they're leaving the site. Marty goes to get Copernicus, and Copernicus is like kind of going, he's like, come on, Copernicus. Is like, and then he looks at the tombstone and notices it says Emmett Brown. He's like, and he kind of double takes. He goes, Emmett Brown's like, he's like, Doc, come here. Like, what is it, Marty? And he comes over and he basically is like, Doc, I think you're dead. Basically, kind of thing. Like, he's like, it says shot in the back by Buford cannon over a matter of $80, erected by my beloved Clara. He's like, I don't know any Clara. And
oh man, so, you said a drinking where we were doing really good, not having to drink or anything like that.
Oh, Clara, twice, double drink. And so he's like, Marty, don't stand there. He's like, oh, sorry. And so he takes a picture of it. and they basically go do a little research, and they look up Mad Dog Tannen. Oh, Drake. And they find out that he was like this gunslinger, and he was like hot tempered and all this kind of stuff, and it was like really, crazy, and all this kind of stuff, and that's why he got the name Mad Dog, and why he like drooled and stuff like that. And then they find a picture of Doc back in 1885. It's like, it is me. I do go back there and get shot. It's like, I can't believe this is the way my life ends. And so he's like, it's not going to end that way because I'm going to go back to 1885 and bring you back home. And so basically that's when we cut to this drive-in theater where they got the DeLorean. It's got all new tires on it. It's all tricked out with the 1955 components to be able to work, so Doc gets, Marty like supposed Western clothes, and yet they look like, a howdy doody time 1950s-esque look. Basically almost like he looks like a mannequin doll or something, or a Ken doll at the time. And basically he's like, you're gonna drive right at that screen, and you're gonna, as soon as you hit 80 miles, you're gonna be transported back to 1855. And Marty's like, but Doc, what do I do about the Indians? Like, you're not thinking fourth dimensionally. He's like, when you transport, there'll be nothing there. It's like, that's right. And so he's like, good luck, and so Marty gets in the car, and he's basically heads towards the screen, and basically transports back to 1885. And when he does transport, what does he come in contact with? Indians. So as he's transported and he comes in contact with the Indians, he like starts to drive backwards to get away from him, and he basically ends up finding a cave and drives the DeLorean in there to get away from the Indians, and waits in there while they're going off and going whatever direction they are. And he briefly like pops his head back out, and then all of a sudden the cavalry is showing up, and he like basically ducks back into the cave again while as they go by. And after everyone's gone, he looks at the DeLorean and realizes that he accidentally cut the gas line and that he's losing gas. And so when he realizes that he can't take DeLorean anywhere, he's basically got to go and walk into town. So as he starts making his way, he makes his way, and all of a sudden the cavalry is coming back, and he starts running and trying to get away, and ends up falling over a little cliff, falls down, hits his head on a thing, and gets knocked out. And he wakes up. He does the same thing like in the first film and the second film, where he's like, Mom, I had this bad dream that, I was blah, 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 and this stuff. He's like, and basically then it's like, oh, you're fine now here at the McFly farm. And he's like, the McFly farm? He wakes up and realizes that he's with his relatives, the first relatives from Ireland over to America, who happens to be Leah Thompson as his great-great-grandmother. And then, of course, himself, Michael J. Fox, played his great-great-grandfather. And or great-great-great-grandfather. And then, of course, his great-grandfather is the little baby. And basically, he gets kind of a little bit of family history lesson there. And, they ask him, what you doing out of here without a pair of boots or a hat or, all this stuff. And he's like, my horse broke down and I lost my boots and I forgot the hat. He's like, I tell you what, Mr. Eastwood, what's your name? And he calls himself Clint Eastwood, which is absolutely hilarious because, of course, nobody would know who the hell Clint Eastwood was back in 1885. So, basically he ends up, Jameis decides I'm going to help him because I feel like it's the right thing to do. And so he says, I'll take you to the train tracks that go right into town, and I'll even give you a hat and some boots. And so he makes his way. After Jameis shows him the way, we see him. He makes his way into Hill Valley at the time, which it's a great saloon town look and everything like that. And They actually built that from scratch. The whole Hill Valley Western theme, that whole plot was built on location in California to give it a real authentic feel. They actually filmed a lot of spots that were during the 1800s were considered like Wild West spots. So a lot of the scenery you see in this film are that. So after he makes his way in, we see him kind of do like the same thing like we've seen in other films, where you kind of get to see kind of majority of the square of the intro into Hill Valley. We see where the saloon is, the mortuary, all that kind of stuff. And of course, as he walks in, to how people start noticing his clothing, his shoes, and all that kind of stuff. Thinking, what the hell is going on here? What's this kid wearing? And basically, he ends up going into the saloon, asking, do they know of any blacksmith in town? And the bartender's like, oh, do you want a drink? It's like, oh yeah, I'll take a water. He's like, if you want water, you got to go duck your head out with the horses. And here we do adult drinks or whatever he says.
Shoot whiskey.
Shoot whiskey. And so he's like, okay, a whiskey then. And so he basically, that's when because he's wearing the McFly hat. That's when all of a sudden a great tannin, Drake, pops up and goes, hey, I thought I told you not to come in here, McFly. And then he turns around, he's like, oh, you're not him. You're wearing that god awful hat that he wears. And basically, he ends up getting into a scuffle with him, and he ends up, starts like shooting at Marty and stuff like that. And he starts dancing. He starts doing Michael Jackson moves, which was hilarious. He ends up hitting a canister with wonderful chew in it, and ends up going. He catches it and it pours all over him. And then they end up chasing outside and end up grabbing him with a rope and end up trying to hang him. Thankfully, Doc shows up and shoots him down. And, basically that's when we find out about the $80 that supposedly Doc owes to Mr. Tannen. Oh, Drake. Because of a horseshoe that fell off of his horse that he had Doc fix for him, and basically, says that really the real precious cargo that was destroyed wasn't the horse; it was the whiskey that I had, and you owe me $80 for the horse and the whiskey. He's like, well, if your horse threw the shoe, bring it back and I'll reshoe him. And he's like, I already killed that horse, basically, he says. And so basically he's like, this is not over, blacksmith. And him and his group end up leaving. Doc and Marty are reintroduced to each other. He's like, Marty, I thought I told you not to come back here. It's like, good to see you, Doc. He's like, wow, who dressed you in those odd, awful clothes? That's gonna get you shot or hanged. He's like, you did. And he kind of looks at him like, huh? So we'll stop there. Another little tidbit for you guys up there. That scene where Michael J. Fox is being hung up actually almost killed him. For those that didn't know that, they actually, when they were doing the scene, unfortunately, somehow Michael got it stuck somehow, and so it started to strangle him and made him pass out for a second. But yeah, it almost choked him to death. So I thought that was an interesting little tidbit for you guys out there. Another one of those almost died on set type of deals. All right, so guys, what are your thoughts on the beginning of the film? Was there anything about the beginning of the film you found interesting or fun or didn't like? And just your overall thoughts kind of on that beginning leading up to after Doc and Marty are reunited. Starting with you, Jeff.
I don't really have that much to say. The introductory part that is probably one of the best parts of the film, when you see Marty meet Doc Brown from 1955 and they find the DeLorean and all that and whatnot. I found that to be pretty entertaining. That was a good chunk of the intro that I enjoyed. For the minute that he time traveled back in time to the Western time period, I don't know. It was okay. Like the whole Indian and the cavalry stuff didn't do a lot for me. may the force be with you, cool bro. But so no, I dug the Western motif for the most part. But again, the same thing with like the scene with the dude that doesn't like him, and that doesn't like McFly. The scenes with like the McFly family. It was cool seeing Michael J. Fox playing to the dual characters at the same time. That I dug that part. But besides that, I didn't really take much from it. And that's pretty much it. There's other things I have to say about the later on aspects of the film, but in this part here, I don't really have much to say.
Okay. Andre, same question.
Yeah, I mean, a really good beginning section of the film. It's always great to see other versions of Doc interacting with Marty. So it was really great to spend more time with the 1955 version. So it was really cool, and I always love his energy. I mean, the fact that he when he wakes up from the TV, and then he starts recalling the time travel success. And then I just love
he's using a phone like it's a recording device.
Yeah. It's so funny. I always love that. And then he has the jump scare from Morty, and he's like, no! And he's pressing on the organ, whatever. And it's like he's making this dramatic, musical. It was so funny. And and of course when they get into the when they find when he reads the notes from 1985 version of Doc, he gets a little teary eye. He's like, I cannot believe I wrote that beautiful no, and Marty's like, it's a good no. It's so funny. I just love Doc, so dramatic. And then of course he complains that all technology are from Japan, and then I like Marty's response, well, the best tech are from Japan. Because at this point during that time period, we didn't have the Japan technology that we have now, where they're so good for us in this 20th century. And then of course we get into the how to say it, the Western theme part. I don't know what you call it. It was funny. I always I forgot that Marty mentions Clint Eastwood, and of course that time they didn't know Clint Eastwood at that time, and so it's very funny to hear that. And it's great. This series done such a good job of setting up what we need to know for the plot of this film, and right away we know we're gonna see, and all the the little details of the pictures and the dates, and it's so cleverly done, which is great. The love interest, I can't believe they set up the love interest in a tombstone, and then we're going to see her later, which is funny. And then of course the main villain, by Thomas W. Wilson, his great grandfather in the film, in a good way. All that setup is great in this 30 or 40-minute sequence, which is great. I really dug it. If you didn't like part two because how fast and radical it is, this sequence will help you like this movie more, because it's slowing down. It's a good pace. It's not radically hyper, energetic like part two was. So here is very traditional filmmaking, slow pace, filmmaking, getting to know your characters again, and then what's going to be the next step of this film. So I really appreciate that. And of course the actors. I love Christopher Lloyd and Jimmy James say, oh my god, I cannot say his actor's name.
Michael J. Fox.
Yeah, Michael J. Fox. I almost say Jamie Fox. Did a moment there. It's like, oh dear, fuck. My god. One tidbit I heard. I think this is the film set. This movie was where Michael J. Fox knew his Parkinson's disease was coming in. Oh, really? What movie was that?
Doc Hollywood.
Oh, really? Doc Hollywood. Okay. I thought it was this or some other movie. He got the diagnosis, right? Yeah. Yep. Okay, that makes sense. Yeah, and just last thing, the Western theme. I mean, you have to remember that these filmmakers were from the 50s, and like westerns at that time was a big thing. And like a lot of the old generation loved westerns, and you know, yeah, it was kind of weird that you know that was the basis of this, but it makes a lot of sense. And plus, it did set up the stages for the westerns to come back. And you think about it, this and then 2 years, 1992, the Unforgiven, the Clint Eastwood movie, helped to research like interests of the westerns,
There was
because
Tombstone, Wyatt Earp. They had
yeah, but that's
they had
yeah, yeah,
there's
it's like yeah, it's right after that, yeah. But yeah, I that was a turning off point for me for this part. But then when you rewatch it again, it actually makes sense. Because part two we went to so many places, and so it was refreshing to see in stay in one location. Just like the first movie.
Excellent. Thank you, sir. Great job. Anyways, yeah, great sequence. I feel really great introduction to the film, especially that sequence, like everyone said, of Marty and Doc finding the DeLorean underneath in the cave. That scene was really well done because it really gets to show you and gives you an idea of kind of Doc and Marty's relationship, and how even this 1955 version, even though he's known him only for a week, because as they were together for about a week in the first film, you could still see how great of a relationship they had, even if they had known each other, 30 years prior, and kind of how they were, in the 1980s too, as well. You could definitely see they had a really great bond, and that they really did, enjoy and care for each other. So I like that. I thought that was really fun and really, pushes it back to the original film and gives props to that film. All right, great job, guys. What did you guys think about Thomas F. Wilson? A little bit, the introduction to his character in the film, because in this film we only see him as this character, and then very briefly at the end of the film as older Biff. So, what did you think about the introduction to this Mad Dog character, Drake? Start with you, Jeff.
I did not care for the character. I did not. I'm just gonna put it out. I'll put it out there now. I was not fond of him as the protagonist or antagonist or whatever you want to call it. I apologize.
Oh, you're fine. How about you, Andres?
First Thomas F. Wilson is amazing. He's like the best thing about this trilogy, and I really like his antagonists. Antagonists here in this film. It's tough to be his other versions in part two. Like his older self of the future in 2015. His alternate, version in 1985, and then the 1955. So we've seen so many of this version of Thomas F. Wilson, and so for this one, it's still great. I mean, it's just like he's just playing one character here, and then of course the ending, the end where we see his older self. So I really dug it. I mean, he really fits into that like Western setting, like the makeup is really good. Like you cannot tell that's him, and like he really disappeared in his performance. So I really dug it. It's really your opinion, whatever version you like from Thomas F. Wilson. I put this at number 3 for me as his best performance in this trilogy after 55 and 2015. I just love his also hello, wake up, doofus. It's always funny when he just knocks Marty out. So funny. Anyway, I dug his performance.
Excellent. Awesome, guys. All right. So moving on. So after they get back, after they, get reintroduced to each other, Marty gets taken back to, Doc's lair, where he is a blacksmith. And we see, of course, in Doc's lair, he's got all those kind of crazy contraptions as he did in his 1985 home, and so we basically see this giant thing that's going on there. We see it's making all kinds of noises and stuff like that. And as him and Marty are kind of talking, he's kind of messing with it. And all of a sudden, Doc's like, you know, do you want iced tea? And it's like, it's a refrigerator. He's able to pull parts from the 1885 and create a refrigerator that has
all the water is all dirty looking in the movie, like it all looks disgusting. You know what I mean? Like, did you notice that all the water looks gross?
Nothing was filtered back then. even well water is kind of filtered in homes when it's introduced into homes and stuff like that. They have
when he's at the McFly farm, she pours in the water and it's like brown.
Yep. Yep. That's unfortunately how water was back then. No filtration. But yeah, that was funny. Even in iced tea, you could see that the water is even a little murky too, along with iced tea.
It looked a little off.
Yeah, I think even the ice cube looked a little off too, if you noticed.
It did, yeah.
Pretty funny, yeah. And so, basically he tells, Doc that, that Can's going to kill him. Oh, drink. Over a matter of $80. He's like, I wish I had just paid the fool. And basically they come up with a plan, that they're going to get out of there and everything, and that they won't be there for, if he shows back up and tries to kill him on Monday. And so he's like, that's great. So we can get going as soon as possible. He's like, yeah, I've never met this CC person. And, how would I fall in love with this person if I had never met them, And we briefly get kind of a one of those like aha moments in this sequence too, as well, when a guy stops by to let Doc know that the teacher is coming and that if he's still gonna be there to meet her, that she's coming in on Monday. And he's like, oh, okay. And he says her name and they're like, what? There it is. That's the love interest. And so basically Marty ends up telling him, he's like, hey, unfortunately we just gotta patch up the fuel line and get some gas. He's like, we're out of gas. He's like, yeah. He's like, there won't be a gas station till the beginning of the 20th century. And there's no gas around. He's like, but we got Mr. Fusion, right? He's like, yeah, Mr. Fusion powers the time circuits, but the regular engine runs on old gasoline. And then he tries to come up with ideas like, oh, we could roll it down a frosty hill. He's like, Doc, we can't wait that long. We got to get out of here by Monday. He's like, what are our other options? And so then we see kind of like this montage of them trying to figure out ways of, pulling the DeLorean up to 88 miles an hour. They try horses, which they find out doesn't work because the fastest horse probably might go maybe 35 miles an hour. And really, they try using really one of the strongest liquors. They try doing that, and that ends up blowing out the manifold in the car. And this will take me months to fix. He's like, we got days, Doc. We don't got months. And he's like, if there's only a way we can push the DeLorean up to 88 miles an hour. And then all of a sudden we hear the train, choo choo. And he's like the train. It's like, he's like, they go talk to the train conductor and they're like, is this able to get up to like say 90 miles an hour? He's like, and the guy's like, well, I don't know why you needed to get it up that fast or get somewhere that fast, but I say if you got the coals hotter than tarnation, you'd be able to get it probably, yeah. And you had a straight Faro that, you had no turns or anything like that. Yeah, you could probably get this sucker up to 90. And so after they figure that out, they go back to the Doc's lair. And they look at the old map. And, as they're looking at the map, It's like, this is where we would do it because this is the straightest path. And he's like, and it goes right over into blah, blah ravine. And he's like, well, here it says it's something else called ravine, but it's not that ravine here. But he's like, Doc, so then they go look at it. It's like, well, we can't do that, Doc. It's not completed. He's like, but you're not thinking fourth dimensionally again, Marty's like, oh, that's right. Yeah. It'll be completed in 1985. We just got to make sure the DeLorean's up to 88 before we hit this hit. And so basically that puts into motion them basically, stealing the trade and using that to push the the DeLorean up to 88 miles an hour, and that would be that clear path. So we'll stop there. I can see that Mr. Andres has left us again. All right. So
he had to take care of family, so he'll be back.
Yeah. Anyways, we'll stop right there. And so before we go into a question, we'll wait for Andres to return. How about we show the trailers, sir, to give people an idea of what we're talking about here?
10-4, Captain.
Oh, yeah. Great trailers. There we go. Beautiful, people. Great job, Jeff. Great job. 1,000,000 points for you tonight, sir.
Those are some great trailers, man.
Some great trailers. Great trailers, especially the speaker. Anyways, so Andres, we just to reinform you where we're at, we stopped right as they figured out how to push the DeLorean up to 88 miles an hour with the steam locomotive. That's where we stopped before they have to go and save somebody. So my question is, what did you think about that section of the film? Did you enjoy it? Did you like that montage? Did you think that it was funny at any point? Did you get a kick out of it? What were your thoughts on that little section of the film? Starting with you, Andreas.
Sure. I think this sequence is really good. It's very funny when we see, past or future versions of their ancestor of the McFly family, and this one was top notch. I think this is my favorite one of the bunch because, like, at least it's realistic. Because it was so weird in part 2 to see like his kids look like himself, like the daughter looked exactly like Michael J. Fox, and the son makes sense, right? I'm fine with that, but like, yeah. So here, I like how subtle it is. I like the makeup on Michael J. Fox as his one of his relatives, Simon and Maggie McFly. Like they look like in the westerns, which is good. And I really appreciate that, because surprisingly in my rewatch for this, like he becomes a really important figure for Marty in his arc for this film, which is cool. So I really dug that, and plus it was very funny, with the being the Western, the food and drinks is not as polished as 1985 or the future, like the water looks dirty, and the I don't know, something coming out of his food, like what's those, like beans or like
it was like little pieces. It was shot from like a gun, like a shotgun.
Okay, that was weird. I thought it was something for like an animal, like I thought it was poo. It was like poo.
We talked about that while you were gone. We were talking about how the water was all dirty and shit, and whatnot.
Yeah. I always crack up on that. Yeah, and then when it goes to the city, it's always funny to see the people's reaction on his like clothing, which is because it's not from that past, so it makes sense. So and then we meet Thomas F. Wilson, the great grandfather of that time, and just stole the show. He's cronies. I just love that he has cronies still, and they're hilarious. Just telling him correctly what to say, or sometimes in the film. So and this scene was very funny. I don't know, you guys brought up how like Marty does the Michael Jackson dance, and then like he does the move dance, like and bam, hits that jar at him. So it was hilarious. And yeah, then him reuniting with Doc was really nice. And yeah, and the freezer, that was funny. I thought it was gonna be this like Willy Wonka thing, like maybe he was crazy, something so I don't know, crazy. But then it's like a freezer and just ice and puts his iced tea. That was hilarious. And then this, I didn't catch this until this rewatch. I didn't realize he was using those couple of horses to push the 85 per mile to the DeLorean, and I was like, oh, that makes sense. Because I thought he was gonna take it back to his shop and fix it, but I didn't know that at that moment they were trying to get back to it by using horses, which is hilarious. Um, yeah, and then um it's I noticed that point is before he makes the idea, right? So overall, great sequence, really fantastic. I really enjoyed that. The film is such good pace. I really enjoyed this trilogy. They have a really good pace every time, and this is no different, which is great. There's no like dragon or not. Like it's pretty good.
Excellent, sir. Thank you. Jeff, same question, sir. What are your thoughts up to the point when they decide that that's how they're going to do it, is the steam locomotive?
Well, Doc Brown really carries the film like a lot throughout a lot of the Western stuff. He really does. He's the catalyst in a way, right? After Marty inserts himself into the Wild West, Doc Brown sort of takes over. And the introduction of Mrs. C's character, their immediate, like, he's love struck with her and whatnot, which what's happens during what we're talking about. That's really cool to see. It was like very, cute, to see that. And all the secondary characters are really well performed, are really well done. The scenes where it's them in the Wild West and it's Marty and Doc Brown figuring out what they want to do, how they're going to get back to, to 1955 or whatever it is, 1985, whatever, are cool. It's interesting seeing them trying to figure all that out while you're interlacing it with like the scenes where it's Mrs. C showing up with the, her wanting her, telescope fixed and all that and whatnot,
I haven't gone that far, sir.
Okay. Well, I'll stop there then.
Okie dokie. Thank you, sir. All right. Excellent job, guys. Both a million points. Fantastically done. All right. So, moving on. So at this point, after they have decided that they're going to use the steam locomotive, that's when all of a sudden they hear a yell for help. And as they hear the yell for help, they realize that somebody is on a runaway horse. And so as they go chasing after the person, they end up saving her from falling into the ravine, which happens to be the ravine's name in 1985, because this person was originally supposed to die and fall into that ravine, but they end up saving her from falling into that ravine, and so it doesn't end up becoming the name of that ravine. So basically, after Doc saves her, it's like they fall love at first sight, and basically end up creating this, close relationship, as Jeff had mentioned a few seconds ago. And after they return her to her house that she's going to be staying at while she's being a teacher, they say their goodbyes and everything and get going. While they're back at Doc's blacksmith house, they're there doing their thing, and she ends up popping up and asking Doc to fix her telescope because it got damaged when the horse ran away. And so he said, I'd be happy to do that for you. And she's like, well, he's like, I could do that right for you right now and have it ready for you by tonight. And he's like, oh no, well, you can't do that with the festival going on tonight. Aren't you going, Emmett? And he's like, oh, of course we're going. And Marty's kind of like in the background go, what the fuck, Doc? Like, what the fuck? And we got things to fucking do here, you know? And so basically they end up going to the shindig that they have that night. It's a celebration. And as they go there, we have a little quaint little scene with Mr. Tannen, Drake, popping up with his cohorts. And basically the deputy sheriff's there is saying, you can't enter the festivities without giving us your firearms before you enter. And of course, you know, he at first is, you know, like, what are you gonna do about it, deputy? And then that's when the marshal pops up, who is of course Mr. Strickland from the other two films, playing himself as a marshal. He's like, what are you gonna give us a hard time, mister? It's like, or do I have to put this right against your face, sir, to get you to give your guns up? But, you know, one of these days we'll get you, sir. And, you know, basically he's like, I'm just joking with the deputy sheriff. And so they end up giving their guns. And then they're like, also the knife too. It's like, of course. And he gives his knife and throws it and sticks it into the table there, as we see. And so then they're able to enter into the festivities. We go to the festivities, and of course, it's almost just like a big shindig going on. We have, you know, shooting ranges there where you can play games, where you can shoot the, you know, duck like a carnival. You got food, you got music, which is so funny. The live music is being played by the great band ZZ Top. And yeah, of course, you know, Frank Beard and Billy Gibbs and the other guy, I forget the other guy's name, unfortunately, who passed away. Great band, absolutely loved it. And when I noticed that for the first time that was ZZ Top, I was like literally ecstatic as hell, because I'm like, oh my god, these guys are the best. I'm like, this is so great. They would totally fit into the 1880s. And so I was like so fun, and like rewatching it and seeing them again going, I'm like, that's awesome. And so the music going on is actually the great ZZ Tops, if you did not know that, folks. And so basically we see, you know, Marty going around kind of, you know, checking things out. Doc ends up dancing with Miss C. And, you know, they're on the dance floor dancing, and Marty's over watching. And this one guy says, hey, son, would you like to shoot this new Colt 50, you know, over here? Like, even a baby can shoot it. He's like, okay. It's like, so he goes over to the game, and he has it in his left hand, which he's not left-handed. He's right-handed. He like shoots it like way off, and the guy laughs at him, and he's like, can I try that again? He's like, of course. He's like, and so he puts it in his right hand, that like kicks the crap out of the game. And it's like, and as we saw in the trailer, he's like, how'd you learn to shoot like that? 7-Eleven, which is so freaking funny. And welcome. I forgot to say, welcome back, Mr. Cool Bro. Good to have you here. Yes, Andreas has a great X-Men t-shirt on. And yes, the part where he says Eastwood, Clint Eastwood, was super funny too, most definitely. And so after that, all of a sudden, Mr. T pops up and starts to mess with Doc, and you know, basically marches up behind him and has one of those little one-shoot pistols with him, and shoves it into his back. He's like, I could do it right here, blacksmith. I can take care of it right now. He's like, and you know, basically Doc's like, Tannen, you're early. Oh, Drake. He's like, I might just I can take my $80 out of this fresh filly you have here. And he's like, mind if I dance with her? And so basically Clara's kind of like, oh, Drake. Is like, he's like, Emmett, now I don't know what you have against Mr. Emmett here, sir, but this is a dance, and we're dancing, so you should just go away. And so it's like, you know, he's about to shoot Doc, and she's like, no, You can dance with me. You can dance with me. So they start dancing and they're dancing and stuff like that. And Mr. T is like, getting all sexy with her and stuff like that. It's like, I take my $80 out of this and stuff like that. And basically she ends up kicking him in the leg. He's like, oh, and he's about to shoot Doc, and Marty notices. And so then Marty takes one of the pie pans, which says Frisbee in it, which is super hilarious that, Frisbees. And it was, for some reason, a pie pan was called Frisbee. But if I remember correctly, the people that created Frisbee originally were in the bakeware industry. So I think that was a nod to that, if I remember correctly. I've seen that before or something like that, which I thought was a cool little tidbit. But he ends up throwing the pie pan and ends up hitting Mr. T's hand and knocking the gun from hitting Doc, and it just shoots his hat off. And, he's like, and Tanner looks over. Oh, shit. Drink. And looks over and notices that who it is. He's like, it's you. It's like, I got business with you. And he's like, basically, he's like, let's take this out right now. And he's like, nah. He's like, just leave my friends alone. He's like, what are you, yellow? And Marty, of course, turns around. He's like, nobody calls me yellow. And he's like, let's take care of it now. He's like, no. He's like, I'm not. He's like, I don't do that. We fight like men, basically. And basically they work it out to where, they they're gonna have a showdown. That I'll be back tomorrow to do a shootout with you, basically, and we'll take care of this. And they're like, and then his goons are like, no, we're gonna be raiding the bank that day. He's like, okay. It's like, then on Sunday, it's like, but that will be in blah blah blah. It's like, how about Monday? Are we doing anything Monday? He's like, no, you're good. You can shoot him on Monday. He's like, okay, I'll be back this way on Monday, and let's do it at 7 a.m. I do it before I eat breakfast. And the Darty's like, I do it after I eat breakfast. We'll make it 8. He's like, all right, 8. And then they basically the sheriff comes over and basically breaks it up, and they get back to dancing and all that kind of stuff. And then all of a sudden, after Marty does that, all the people start being nice to him, like, here, you can have this gun, and good for you, Mr. Eastwood. Good for you, Mr. Eastwood. And basically that they leave the party pretty much after that, and we go to the next day. So I'll stop there. So what were you guys' thoughts on that section of the film? Did you enjoy it? What did you like about the sequence? Did you get a crack up out of the Frisbee reference? Did you get a crack up out of the video game reference? And just your overall thoughts, kind of the introduction to Miss C to the end of the party scene. Starting with you, Jeff.
I already went ahead and crossed over into the Mrs. C territory. I really enjoyed every aspect of her being in the film was really good. I thought it really, like, for some reason it really lined up where it really caught for me really well with her. And her dynamic with Doc Brown was really good. The festival was great. The dancing and everything and whatnot was great. Mary Steenburgen was really good in this movie. She was really solid. And overall, I liked seeing Marty was good in this side of this film. He was great shooting the gun. Like it was cool seeing the whatever it was, the one the one gun he shot, and then the whole thing with him, like calling him yellow and shit, is so played out at this point. Like it's played out, like, so it's so obvious what was going to happen right there. So really that's pretty much all I got. Just that, it's neat seeing Doc falling in love with, Mrs. C, right. And, while at the same time entertaining Marty and his dynamic. Right. And it was cool seeing them bring back the one actor to play that one character to be the sheriff, because I thought honestly that was like John Boyd at first. I did.
You thought he was John Boyd. That's hilarious.
I did. Yeah.
That's awesome, sir. Excellent. Great job. Andreas, same question, sir.
Yeah, I mean, first off, I didn't touch on the Miss C. Great actress, Miss Mary Simber. Fantastic actress. If you haven't seen her body of work, I mean, I seen her a couple times in the Larry David show from HBO, Curb. She's funny in that as the. Well, I guess she is married to Ted Dancing, right? She's fantastic in this movie. Oh yeah, okay, thank you. Uh, she's fantastic in this movie. She was a great addition to this film. She has really good chemistry with Christopher Lloyd. You totally buy their like love story in this film because 9 out of 10 they don't work sometimes, and here it just really works because you know just really works in that chemistry and and I really dug that, and that's the part that I like about this film. Seeing more of Doc be him himself, finding some happiness, and that I really appreciate that in part three. And yeah, I forgot who was that sheriff until I realized, oh yeah, he's supposed to be the ancestor of that principal, and it's just so weird to see him with hair because he's always bald in films like Top Gun, Masters of the Universe. It's just he nails it. And right, he does kind of look like a young John Voight. Like I'm surprised they didn't make like a bio movie of John Voight, and he's like the perfect casting of that actor. But anyway, besides that tangent, yeah, I didn't know about that frisbee. I didn't understood that frisbee joke, and until you guys kind of explained that, I was like, oh, okay, that makes kind of sense. Um, yeah, and yeah, the party was really great. It was good to see the Easy Top, some of the musicians that made the song for the soundtrack of part three. That was really cool that they roped them in, and it's really nice. I really like the production design of this film. You're right. They shot this film around California and Arizona, which is the spots where you usually shoot for the westerns. So, but yeah, so the sequence is really great, and then we'll get into um, the setup that now the tomb is going to be more Marty's tomb is really great. I mean, like now the change of the past future of this tombstone is completely changed, and I actually I missed that part in my rewatch today. I was so happy they brought that image of the picture changing because that was from the first film, and I like that they brought that back here, which we kind of used that in the newspaper in part two, but I appreciate we used that again here. And so I really dug that. So yeah, I'm very excited to talk about the half portion of this film. But yeah, it's really good. Yeah.
Excellent. Great job, guys. You guys are nailing it tonight. 1,000,000 points again for both of you. Great job, guys. You guys are the bee's knees. Oh, yeah. Anywho, that's right, Jeff. Bee's knees. Yeah, bee's knees, sir. I'm old.
Okay, sir. Okay, USA.
Okay, you and me. Anyways, all right. So back to the film. So then the next day, Doc urges Marty to not react to the provocation of Mr. T, and basically says, that leads to your your current situation in the future. And Marty's like, what do you mean? He's like, you have a certain accident in your future that is life changing, and what causes you to have what happens to you in the future. And that, this is the kind of things you got to get over and not allow to happen, and Marty's kind of like upset about it. Although, basically then we see them, they go and they're getting the DeLorean ready to on the track and everything to be able to be pushed by the locomotive when they steal it on Monday. And basically they kind of have a conversation. And, Doc basically presses that he's in love with Miss C and that he's going to stay there. And so,
every time we say Miss C, I want to say Miss Cunt. It's the only C I can think of that comes after Miss Cunt.
Miss C. I don't. That's a good one, Jeff. I was thinking Miss Kratz, Miss Cash, Miss Carr,
Miss California. She's probably trans.
Miss California. Who knows? But Mrs. C. If you're a huge fan of TV, you should know Mrs. C was, of course, on Happy Days as Richie's mom. So Mrs. C. That's what I think of when I hear Miss C. All right. So as Doc is professing this, Marty's like, Doc, you got to remember, what do you feel with your brain versus your heart? Because remember, you told me, Doc, we can't do anything to mess with our futures by gaining by it. Basically, going back to the whole thing, like in part 2, where Marty wanted to get the almanac, but that ended up going haywire. And so he's basically, kind of reiterating what Doc said to kind of get, Doc out of fuck because he's fallen in love. And he's like, you're right, Marty. And, basically releases the, DeLorean onto the rail track to be ready. And, as he's doing that, he's like, well, I should definitely go say goodbye. He's like, what for, Doc? It's like, you don't need to do that. It's like, oh, okay, you're right, Marty. You're right. Got to lead with my head, not my heart. And, basically, Marty ends up falling asleep. And Doc decides, oh, I'm going to go tell, Miss C, that I'm leaving town and saying goodbye. And that he's breaking up with her. And so basically goes sees her and, basically, tells her that he's leaving town. He can't tell her where he's going, but that, he truly does love her and blah, blah, blah. And so, basically she's like, if you really, truly love me, you're going to tell me the truth and all this. And he's like, okay. And he basically tells the truth, saying that he's a time traveler and that he's got to get back to 1985. She's like, he's like, she's like, I've heard some stuff, but this is just way up there. I mean, you knew that I love Jules Verne and blah, blah, blah. This is that is basically going off on him and basically breaking his heart. And so basically we end up seeing him, go back to town and go to the bar and to ask for a whiskey. And the bartender's at first like, oh, so you want a blah, blah, blah. He's like, no. It's like something, he's like something harder. He's like, oh, sarsaparilla. He's like, no, whiskey. Whiskey. He's like, but Abby, you know how you were on the 4th of July. And he's like, whiskey. And so he gives him the whiskey. And then he just stayed there holding it, not doing anything with it. And this other gentleman approaches and starts talking to him. And basically he starts telling kind of his life story to this guy. So after he starts talking to him, it goes back to Marty. He wakes up, sees that that Doc is not there, and basically
they show his bare ass too. You get to see his bare ass.
I mean, you see kind of a partial of a cheek there, a little bit. It's not really a bare ass, sir, but close. Got to make sure Jeff points that out. Ass. Great radar, sir. Great radar. And so he makes his way back to town to find Doc. And while he's there, he finds him at the bar. And basically, Doc is still telling his story. And he goes up to him, he's like, Doc, we gotta get going. We gotta get the train and all this blah blah blah. Jesus. And so basically it's like, we gotta go where? It's like Back to the Future. It's like what? It's like, Doc, we gotta get back. We gotta go. It's like basically he says something to get kind of Doc to get out of his fucking realize, oh yeah, I got to get going. He's like, I got to go, gentlemen. See you later. And he's about to put down the drink. And before that, he gets kind of sideswiped and distracted. And as he gets distracted, he accidentally drinks the drink. And he's like, they're like, no, Emmett, no. And he takes the swig, and all of a sudden he seems normal. Then all of a sudden he just, bam, hits the floor. Takes out a table with him. And Marty's like, oh, Doc, come on, Doc, wake up. It's like, we need to wake him up. We got to get out of here. We got to keep up. We got to keep going. And so, pardon me, viewers, for this cough. It's a very annoying cough. And just, of course, it decides to be this annoying right now when I'm talking. So part of this review, guys. Anyways, so they're trying to wake up Doc, and they're like, what it's like, get coffee, let's, and that doesn't work. And as that happening, we see Mr. T waking his posse up. He's like, we gotta get into town. Time for a shootout. And so, they're basically making their way into town, and Marty's still trying to get Doc to wake up, and the coffee's not working. He's like, what do you suggest? He's like, it's time to make a hot one. And so we see them grab all this hot sauce stuff and make this concoction. And basically, as they make this concoction, it's got chilies and hot sauce and all this kind of stuff in it. It's like Waco juice. And so they're basically like, here, put this clothespin on his nose. As soon as he opens, pour it in. And that should do the trick. So they pour. He opens his mouth. They pour it in. 5 seconds later, or seconds later, all of a sudden Doc pops up. He's like, ah! And he runs outside and throws his head into the into the trough. And they, of course, follow him out there and grab him out. And after they pull him out, though, he's still unconscious. And the bartender's like, it takes a few minutes before it really kicks in. So they drag him back into the bar. And then Mr. T shows up, starts calling out for Eastwood. Eastwood, it's time. It's 8 o'clock. And he yells, he's like, it's not quite 8 o'clock yet. He's like, yeah, it is by my clock. And so basically they kind of go back and forth a little bit. He keeps yelling out, saying, come on. And, basically going through, saying, come on, let's do this, and basically he starts to give him like an ultimatum, and he starts counting. But of course, as he's counting, his gang members have to tell him what the next number is, which is super funny. And he's like, I'll give you to the count of 10 and get out here, or I'll come in after you. And so he's still trying to get Doc to wake up and stuff like that. And eventually Doc does wake up as, Mr. T is counting. They start to try to make their way out the back door. And and so as they're making their way out the door, one of the goons notices them, starts shooting at them. And Marty's able to get away, but Doc is stuck. And they capture Doc and say, hey, we're going to kill your friend if you don't come out and face me. And so we see Marty runs into an oven in there and notices the piece of metal of the door, and that he can use that. Can you still see me? Okay. That was weird. I don't know why it went.
We see you, sir.
Okay, just making sure. And so we after he notices that, he just, he's going to do a Clint Eastwood thing. And so they have Doc, and they're yelling for him and stuff like that. And eventually he makes his way out, and he's like in full, garb like Clint Eastwood in that movie. And he's like strolling out, and they're like, so they get in place, and Mr. T's like, draw. And, Marty's like, no. And he takes off his gun. He's like, no, let's fight like old fashioned. Let's fight the real way. and he's like, well, that was the wrong thing, and he shoots him. And you're like, what the hell? And so he's like smiling, like, I killed him. Walks over to him, and basically, like, gets over to him, and then all of a sudden he opens his eyes, kicks it. He gets up. Mr. T tries to punch him, but hits the metal plate that he's wearing, the cast iron plate. Oh, God. And, they start fighting, and basically, Marty knocks him out into some manure, which is a long-running joke in these three films, too, as well. Because in the first film, he runs into a manure truck. Second film, he runs into a manure truck. And then this one, they have him just fall right into a manure. And, which I thought was really funny. And, of course, he when he gets pulled out of it, he's like, I hate manure, which was super funny. But basically, after that, Marty grabs Doc and they start to get the hell out of there. So before we get to that, let's talk about that section. Your guys' thoughts. Start with you, Andres.
Sure. Yeah. Yeah, man, poor Doc. He was in a difficult position. The woman of his life, and going back to the future or past, whatever you want to call it. And this is one thing I appreciate about this third part is, Marty has mature, and Marty is sort of learning to overcome, his, how you say it, like just him, like his ego and some of his teenage kind of ants a little bit, in this film, like the calling the name thing that Jeff brought up that is kind of annoying in this film, but it's part of his arc, to learn how to make good decisions and stop making mistakes, as his ancestors telling him why you want to pick the fight. The fact that because he brought up how his brother got teased and that led him to his death. So that's a big thing with Marty's arc here, is trying to learn how to not let everyone get under his skin. And and this next section is really important, especially the fight between him and Thomas F. Wilson, the great grandfather. And we'll see that a bit more now in the ending, which we'll get into. So getting back to Doc Brown, I don't know, you guys laughed when the breakup happened. It was so TV, it was so the Little House of a Perry, when she's like, how dare you, Doc Brown, you could just tell me the truth, you don't like me, you want to break up with me. And she slams the door, and then we get the little shot where she cries in the bed. It's so campy, and so the westerns kind of the female characters crying like that in that position is so hilarious. I can't believe they went there for a 1990 film. But I feel really bad for Doc Brown, because he really liked her. That they had the same interests, as educational people. And speaking of jokes, I think I appreciate more the jokes in these trilogies now, because I'm older now, and older now in the timeline that I in, as Time Lord, Bat Lord, Time Cop. I never got the joke about the drink. The fact Cyber, you didn't bring the detail. It was just the one drink he had. He didn't drink any whiskey on the whole night. He just babbled about him time traveling, all that to the westerns, and it's so hilarious. I was just laughing at that, and then I love the the part where Marty's asking how many drinks he had, and he just had one, and I was like, really? It's just, oh my god. Oh, Doc, he's so funny. I just love the setup and payoff of the whiskey was hilarious, and yeah, I think that's like a hot cocktail. He was putting spicy and all that mixture. I was like, ugh, oh my god, so gross. And I can't believe this woke him up. And how convenient that there was water there outside of that. That was funny. But yeah, so we got the big showdown. Very typical western. But this one was hilarious. I never put two together that Marty was going to use the Clint Eastwood, the good and bad and ugly, the bulletproof vest thing. That was such a great payoff because we saw that in part two. Because in the alternate timeline, Thomas F. Wilson saw that in the TV. He was watching a Clint Eastwood movie, and it's funny that we saw that here. Great payoff and setup, which is great. Yeah, and this is the part he really learns, from his ancestor to not fight. Like I really like he didn't use a gun. He used his brains to like overcome, this awful, bad guy. So that was really great. I really appreciate that. It really showed that Marty like learned and became a more mature person. And that payoff of the grandfather getting hit with the mirror, and I just love that. He spits out just like his ancestor in 1955. Oh my god, that was hilarious. Poor those ancestors. They're covered in poo. Number two was like, oh my god, poor fella. Oh dear. So, but yeah, fantastic sequence. I really dug this. It's so funny. I mean, like you're so desperate want them to get back to the future, and it's like this is where they're wrapping up, which is hilarious and fantastic. Oh my god, I just love this film, and I think it gets you to really exciting finale. So which we'll get into, but overall I really enjoyed it. The jokes is funny, everything is hilarious, and it's really great. And and you feel really bad with the couple breaking up for a moment, but it gets back to positive.
Kind of like Diddy Juice for Cyber.
I'm about that life. Ask P. Diddy. I just came from his house, even though I'm feeling funny after drinking P. Diddy juice. Wait, what the fuck? What's happening here?
Oh my god, P. Diddy juice. What the hell? P. Diddy juice affect his mind.
Juice. It's almost like you remember the Mr. Bill character, Jeff. Yeah. Oh no, Mr. Bill! That voiceover kind of makes me think of that.
Mr. Bill.
Yeah, I kind of like that. Yeah, it is like Mr. Bill.
Your thoughts, sir?
I don't really have much. I mean, Andre's already pretty much covered all the good points. The relationship with Doc Brown and Miss C is heartbreaking. Like she's all crying in her bed and all that, but it's fake as fuck. Like it's totally fake. Like she's in there crying, and then the whole standoff and all that and whatnot in the morning. Like the whole thing with Doc Brown not drinking the whiskey the whole night threw me off. I'm like, what the fuck? You're telling me you sit there the whole night and didn't drink your shot? You just held it the whole time or whatever? Like that's kind of weird. And then the whole him they have to wake him up and all that shit and whatnot. And then the way that like the standoff goes down was just it was okay. It was okay. It wasn't anything spectacular. I'll save my thoughts for the final round here. This final question's off the ending part of the movie.
Okay, thank you guys both once again. Want that 1 million points for both of you. Great job tonight, guys. You're both going to be winners of the amazing award tonight, the Shogun Award, because you guys are just rocking it. All right. Fantastic panel tonight, folks. Please give them a round of applause.
We're going to take off.
Some of them going to bomb.
Just like they've bombed in the comics.
What about this guy? You think this guy can make it for the Avengers?
Diamond Days, a ninja teaching flicks. I didn't let me see the sign there. Come on in here, ninja. Here's my ninja. Diamond Days Ninja School. Come on down. What we're going to teach you, hold that, Lord, and what we're going to teach you in our first episode is a proper stance and a proper kung fu. And you got your Judy chop, all right? You got your karate chop, and you got your ninja chop. Now, what smart thing to do is like when you use a judo chopping, you got to say it, for you beginners, like a Judy chop. Because what you don't want to do is like be a Judy chopping and a kung fu kicking, and there goes your leg. There ain't much hauling for a one-legged ninja out there. Right there, hard as a rock, buddy. Let me show you something. It'll happen last time, baby. Don't put it in front of your face. I don't want to hurt you. You got me? What we're going to do here, we're going to work on the ninja chops. What we're going to do. You go a ninja chop. Well, now see, now sometimes it don't always work for a ninja. You know, but it practice makes it perfect. Don't go ninja nobody. Don't need ninja. Alrighty? Now, them things there, if I was put them in my pockets, they'd get me for concealment of a deadly weapons. It says you got your son fella coming at you out in the trailer park. Regular cannon you say? No, says I. Watch this, people. Yeah, we just rolling through the trailer park. What's that? Ninja start. Right there. That son fella jumps up behind a trailer on you. You know, you got to put them on out yonder like that. And you can't get him caught up in your ninja outfit, you know. And like if a feller's coming at you with...
Dude, that guy lived right next door to me, man.
What the hell was that weapon he pulled out there? Was that a crack pipe? Like,
It looked like a damn skull can or something, didn't it?
Where did you find that?
That guy that he said that in, that is his interview tape for the Special Olympics Avengers.
That dude don't stand a prayer.
Oh,
that dude.
It's amazing that something like that dude's probably popular as hell from that video.
Dude, that guy could beat Kate Bishop's ass.
Alpha Flight will whoop his ass. Puck will whoop his ass. The ninja chopping, man. Puck will whoop his ass. North Star beat his ass, and that's bad.
I was watching Andrew during that.
Oh, I miss Gunner.
The hammer. All right, excellent. So we got some Judy chop there for you folks out there. Great video. Love that video. It's such a great video. Always so fun. Oh, we got Andres in the bottom there doing some Judy chopping himself. Judy chopping. All right. So let's get into this.
Andres really likes Judy chop. It's one of his favorite videos.
Better than the crazy women trying to get him in his car.
No, I don't know what they're talking about. My time machine's not a car. Something else.
Oh, not his time machine again. Oh God. Time cop's return. All right. So the conclusion of Back to the Future Part 3 goes off. So after Marty and Doc get out of there, they make their way to the train to take it over. We see them riding horses to the train as it's already gone off. On the train, as they're trying to get onto it, before they actually get onto it, Miss C was on it and overhears the gentleman that was talking to Doc in the bar saying how heartbroken he was. She stops the train to get off to go find him. As she's going to find him, like I said, they're making their way to get onto the train. They make their way onto the train, and they basically end up taking it over. And, basically they're like, oh, is this a stick up? And they're like, no, this is a science experiment. And so basically they have them unconnect the locomotive to the rest of the train itself, the cars. And we basically see them take it off from there and leave the people there. And as they make their way, they start to get them all set. They pull up behind the DeLorean. Doc is putting tires into the front of the locomotive to push to give some help when pushing against the DeLorean. Doc basically explains how he has these 3 logs, and each log will burst at a certain point and give the locomotive a burst of speed, and that there's a new gauge inside the DeLorean, the time machine, showing when each one will start to explode. And so basically Marty gets into the DeLorean, gets all set. Doc gets back in the train, and they start going off. As they're doing that, we see Miss C making her way. She finds the trolley cars without a locomotive, starts going faster. Here's the train. starts making her way. As they're starting to make way, Marty's keeping Doc informed of what speed they're at. As they're doing that, Clara's coming up from behind, trying to get onto the train, calling for Emmett. She eventually gets onto the train after one of the log bursts, and she's like holding on to the end and like goes, woo! And I'm sorry, but if a fucking train all of a sudden burst like 30 miles an hour, you would not be able to hold on like that, like freaking like you're in Gone with the Wind. So I think that part's super funny. And so as she starts to climb up and try to get over to Emmett, and so Marty informs, Doc where they're at and that he needs to get into the DeLorean. So as they, as he starts to try to get over to DeLorean, all of a sudden he starts thinking he hears his name, and he's kind of like, what? And it's Clara. And so as he's making his way, he's about to get to the DeLorean. All of a sudden the horn on the train rings, and he sees that it's Miss C, and she's like, I love you, Emmett. I love you. And so Doc starts making his way back to get Miss C. And as that's happening, things start happening because one of the bricks explodes. And as Doc's trying to make his way back, he ends up falling and is like holding on for dear life. She starts to make her way out to him, and she's like all of a sudden starts to fall. And then all of a sudden she's upside down at some point, and Doc's trying to save her and grab her. So at one point, finally, Marty's like, use the hoverboard to help yourself. He releases it, and Doc puts his feet into it and ends up, getting on it and then grabbing Miss C. As they're doing that, basically they've run out of time to get into DeLorean to go back to 1985 with Marty. So then all of a sudden the DeLorean starts to activate, and then all of a sudden Marty is transported back to 1985 after we see Doc and Miss C kind of gliding off on the hoverboard safely off to the side. As Marty makes transports back to 1985, we see the train go over the ravine and crash into and explode, and we get this really great explosion. And then after that, that's when we see Marty arrive on the completed bridge in 1985. He rolls up basically, and and he basically the DeLorean stops right kind of at the crossroad where the bridge is, and all of a sudden it comes down and starts hearing the bells ringing because the train's coming. So as he pulls up finally and notices what's going on, that a train's bearing down on him, he last second jumps out of it before he gets crushed and broken to pieces by the train. So after the train passes by, DeLorean is pretty much in millions of pieces, and it's like, he's like, well, Doc, nice to know you. He makes his way back home. We get to see his brother and sister, mom and dad, older Biff. Oh, drink. And, basically seeing that everyone's back to normal, he's all happy and all that stuff. His father's alive, all that good stuff. And he jumps into his truck, drives over to Jennifer's. As he drives over to Jennifer, she's still sleeping on the swing that was out front of her house in the future 1985. And she's been transported back to her normal house in the regular 1985. And he wakes her up, and she like wakes up and is like, Marty, like I had such a weird dream. And as they're driving back in the truck, she's basically kind of going over her dream and stuff like that. Like, that was a dream, wasn't it, Marty? Like, yeah. And then all of a sudden, they're at a stoplight, and Needles pulls up, and Needles like, "What are you, chicken? Look by, race me!" And so, Marty gets the truck all ready to drag race him. We think Marty's gonna, basically drag race him, and then he ends up going in reverse and turning around and basically watching Needle go. And as Needles is going, he almost runs into a Mercedes or a Rolls Royce. As he's and all of a sudden Marty's like, "Wow, I would have hit that Rolls Royce." And then basically Jennifer looks at the paper that she got from the future supposedly, and all of a sudden it goes blank, meaning that must be the thing that Doc was talking about at the towards the end of the movie. And so basically they go back to the crash site where the DeLorean was, and they're looking at it, and Marty gets down and is pulling out the picture of him and Doc, and it's just Doc. And then all of a sudden, the things come down like a train's coming, and nothing. They don't see anything coming from any direction. And all of a sudden, poof! Out of nowhere, this giant train pops up, black, all decked out, futuristic looking, and it's Doc with Miss C and their two kids that they have all of a sudden now, and basically say, that they made it, they're good, they're happy together, that they're looking forward to going to different places with a new time machine. And basically, Doc thanking Marty for everything. And, that he's glad for their friendship and what it led to, and him finding Miss C. He gives a gift, that picture of them in 1885, and the movie ends. Which is kind of funny because it's kind of a prelude. I don't know if any of you knew, but there was a Back to the Future cartoon in 1991 that ran for a couple seasons, and that was kind of a lead off into that cartoon. So anyways, what are you guys' thoughts on the end of the film? And any other thing you like to mention about the film? Go ahead. I'll start with you, Jeff.
Yeah, basically, sorry about that. Sorry, cool, bro, but we can't really get into that right now. Anyways, I don't really have a lot of thoughts on the final part of the film. It's a good ending. It's a solid ending. It's well done. We get to see the relationship with Doc Brown and Mrs. C resuscitated and brought back to life, and works out like that. Doc stays behind, with Miss C, and everything works out well. Like everything works out the way it's supposed to work out. Everything gets straightened out. The timelines get straightened out, right? Elizabeth Shue's character is there, right? And she's fine as fuck. So that's always cool to see, right? And Marty hooks up with her, and he's gonna bang her, but then he had to go do something else real quick. So yeah, and then as far as Doc showed up with the steam engine, time transportation device or whatever. Good for him, brother. That shit was dope. It was a good ending. Good movie, very entertaining. Just not a lot to talk about this one, really.
Okay, Andres.
Yeah, taking the DeLorean 285 per mile is fantastic. Very thrilling. It's the sequence alone is homaging the Great Train Robbery, right? And so they really done a really good job of that homaging an older film, but using time travel, which is really great. And yeah, the stakes are really high. And I that's one thing that about these films are really good. I think this idea is much better than part two, because part two, back in 1955, not spectacular, it's a very downbeat ending. Here you got this really big action set piece, with the the other time travel thing to push the DeLorean. And so it was so thrilling. And and just great relief, this Emmett Brown saving his love interest, and with the hoverboard from the future was really great. And and then after Marty gets back to 1985, which is crazy. I don't know how long he's been gone, since one day, since getting picked up by from Doc back in the first film was just crazy. After arriving in 1985, you get the usual reaction, seeing the DeLorean in the track, and then oh shock, the train coming in, destroying it, and it's like such a like fate, destiny, because throughout part two and this, Doc always wants to destroy the time machine because it has danger of destroying the time continuum and the timeline and all that. So he got his wish. The DeLorean's destroyed. So sad that that thing is destroyed, but whatever. Um, and yeah, and then seeing his family. Of course, you see his father played by the actor that played him in part two as the father, because they didn't bring back Glover. So that was the big thing that I noticed this time. I mean, the makeup here was really good. The fact that he looked like him was very cool. He meets his girlfriend and Jennifer, yeah, and he's trying to escape, that she did went with them in the future, but like he fails miserably when. And it was so funny, I forgot that he did pass to the neighborhood that he goes to live in the future, the Hill Day, or I forgot the name of this, but yeah, whatever, the same one we saw in 2015. And this part, I really enjoyed this part because this is where his art is finally done. He has matured. He's gonna set his own future, which is great. So he didn't allow the accident happen, because we heard that he like went into an accident and destroyed his musical career. So it was great to see that unfold, and he allowed Niels, which was great to see Niels and his timeline, which was great because we only saw his older self in the future. So such a typical thing. I was wondering Niels is related to um Thomas F. Wilson, or Neo's just a version of the bully for Marty for 1985. Like I was wondering if he was like I don't know what you guys think. Like, do you think Neo's was always related to Thomas F. Wilson? Like he's like a family member, maybe, but I don't know. I like that always made me kind of. What do you think, Cyber? Like you think Neo's is kind of related to? Uh, no. Okay.
Needles is not related to Beth.
Yeah, yeah, because I always thought it, but whatever. I guess he's like the Biff for Marty for his time.
Correct.
Just like, yeah, like Biff is for his father in the 50s. So yeah, so now that Marty didn't choose to do the race, yeah, they changed their past. Now their future is uncentered, as we saw the paper, your fire disappear, and it was really cool. And you kind of feel sad for Doc. Like this trilogy. One of the things that's great about this trilogy is about the friendship between Doc and Marty and how important they are. They, Marty helps Doc to be a better person, and then Doc helps to give Marty the confidence. Like that's why he has so much confidence, because of Doc Brown. Not his biological fathers, because what happened, because he was, before the change, he was just a very weak person, and where Doc was just a bit more eccentric and very, very inspired to risk and do things, and that's how Marty get those ideas from. So, and that helped to change his life in the alternate timeline he's in now. And then we got a new time travel machine. Doc is back. He has now two sons. That's great. Love the time machine. This moral vehicle. Very cool. Very cyberpunk. I have to say, was just really cool. One like weird tidbit. I don't know if you guys noticed this, but if you know this, one of the funny things is the kid. One of the sons do something. He did some weird. I don't know, like weird hand gesture to the camera. If you see it, it's so funny. It's so weird. I think what I heard in the trivia, or behind scenes, that probably the kid wanted to go to the bathroom, and he's doing these weird hand gestures to the crew that I need to go, or I don't know. Like it's so funny. It's so weird. You have to check it out. It's one of those weird, like behind like weird things in films that is so weird. Like, when you see extra doing something that he's so supposed to do, and he does it anyway to be on camera. And this kid, I don't know what the kid doing, but I don't know if you guys noticed that. There's always something that was always bring up about the ending here, part three. But overall, great trilogy, fantastic finale. This is what you should do in a trilogy. Fantastic. Of course, I'm not going to be in the review of the Matrix 3, but that trilogy failed to do what this trilogy does right, is taking care of your characters and the story of what Marty is as a character. And I think that's one thing you guys have to talk about. But yeah, fantastic third part. Second favorite after part two for me. So yeah, very sad that our Back to the Future review is over, because I really dug viewing these with you guys.
Well, thank you. Great job, sir. Once again, both, yeah, 1,000,000 points. You guys are rocking it. Both of you deserve the Shogun Award tonight. Good job, guys. You got the Shogun Awards. All right, excellent job, guys. Yeah, one other thing I wanted to mention was, did anybody notice that the doc himself was very, very, like, he said one thing in part two, and he ends up going and changing things so that he could be with Miss C in this one. And you're kind of like, you told me I could get the almanac, but yet you're gonna do this whole thing. And I was like, that's kind of hypocritical of him. I'm like, he's kind of a hypocrite. I'm like, what the fuck is you doing, Doc? I wonder, did you guys come across that at all? Did you find him hypocritical at all?
Oh,
Not really.
no, and it's weird. I don't know if he's gonna continue time travel. That's the thing. When you say, like, are you gonna, like, because Marty asked him, are you gonna go back to the future? And he's like, nah, I've been there. So I don't know. He's going back to the 1885. With the love interest. No, I don't think he was hypocritical. Because Marty, because he had to remember, Marty was being selfish because he wanted to take that and make some money out of it, which was not what to do. And you saw that with Biff in part two. So I don't think it was hypocritical. But it is you could say a plot hole. It's like, okay, but I mean, Doc doesn't take. He's more smarter than that than our characters.
See, I think he's a complete hypocrite, because that basically what you just said, Andres, is exactly the same thing he did. He went and altered future for himself. So that to me is the exact same thing as Marty would have done by taking the almanac back to 1985 and making some money off of it. So that to me makes him a hypocrite. So I was just like thinking to myself, like, wow, he's really a hypocrite. I just thought it was kind of funny.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, he did that with his family too, right? Part one, like, he changed the way his life is now, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. No. I agree with you, Saber. I haven't really thought about it until you brought it up. But yeah, it's weird.
Yeah,
I mean,
just something that dawned on me when I was watching this one. I'm like, hey, wait a second, he's kind of a hypocrite. That was kind of funny. All right, Jeff. So yeah, I'm gonna push it over to you, sir, and you can take us out.
Rating, sir. My rating for the film is an 8.
Andres?
9 out of 10. Fantastic film. Fantastic.
I as well give it a 9. I thought it was a really fun film.
Okay, now I can take us out.
Now you can take us out.
Why are you crying, Dodger? What's your problem?
Oh.
All right, Andre's the pop culture guy.
Oh, yeah. Hey, everyone. Andreas Pop Culture Channel presents. Today, this recently posted a trailer to reaction of Beetlejuice, which me and Jeff did in the X-Men Days of Future Past live stream review. Tomorrow, I'm going to have my Jackie Brown movie tribute. And then this Sunday, we have the Jackie Brown live stream review. Please join us. We're going to have a fun time, talk about Jackie Brown, plus some news and trailer reaction for Jackie Brown, and Venom 3. Has released last Monday. We'll get to that for that Sunday live stream review. But I want to say thank you everyone for joining us for the Back to the Future Part 2 review. It was really fun. Thank you, Cyber and Jeff. Was a fantastic review. Gonna miss it. We got more movie reviews, but they're not gonna be fun. Well, except for the Dark Knight trilogy. That's gonna be fun. Like
what about the Lord of the Rings, sir?
Yeah. Well, actually, yeah. We're not reviewing the Hobbit, so yeah, the Lord of the Rings, fucking amazing. Fuck you guys. The audience, not you guys. F you guys. Lord of the Rings, baby. Yeah. So.
Okay, there you go, Cyber.
Did he say Lawrence of Arabia?
No.
No.
Lord of the Rings.
Okay. Okay. Anyways,
Go
folks, if you
on.
enjoy me as a moderator, or if you enjoy me on the panel, you can definitely check out my solo content. You can find me under Cyberneticshark. You can find me on YouTube, TikTok, Facebook, Instagram, Threads, X, Patreon, all those places. I pretty much post regularly. I can see my most recent review video that I put up was the 10 best of 2024 so far. I picked out the 10 films I've seen in the first half of 2024. I think are the best of the year. Some interesting picks in there. Some films that I think are just phenomenal and are full of actual entertainment and not some agenda. So definitely check that out if you haven't seen it. Check out my Planet of the Apes reviews. Those have been fun to do, and I'll be having more stuff up for you guys soon. Some more little reviews. Mini reviews as well. Keep your eyes out for that kind of stuff. They actually dropped the full Alien Romulus trailer. So definitely check that out. It made a big difference in what that little teaser trailer showed. And all that kind of good stuff. And shout out to Deadpool Wolverine coming out in July for getting an R rating. Woo woo, woo woo. And actually being the longest of the Deadpool films. It's going to be 2 hours and 7 minutes. So looking forward to it.
Yeah. Well,
okay. And shout out to us at the MCU'S Bleeding Edge because on the Acolyte review the other night, we pulled down our highest ever one-day live stream count, 4.2K views off that live stream recap that we did of the Acolyte.
Wow.
So shout out to everybody out there that helped us with that. We really appreciate it. Folks, This is the end of the review for Back to the Future 3. We love all of you out there. We will see you on Monday with the MCU'S Bleeding Edge report. I'm just Pop Culture and I will be there. The whole team will be there for the Acolyte episode 2. And then, of course, Andres is going to drop off for Matrix 3, but we'll be back on. Cyber will be back on for Matrix 3 next Friday. We'll see you next week. Have a great weekend. Peace.
Bye.
Hey, yo, Jay, can we get some ratchet one time? Look, I don't wanna talk. How you try and press the kid and read it, you was soft. All you know is capping, homie, you don't know the law. Pedal to the metal.